What's going on, A-pluses? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again with a brand new episode review as we're set to get into episode number 10 of X-Men 97, the season finale, baby. As you can see, we got ourselves a brand new display here. Better late than never, they say. I know I didn't start off this season with you guys doing reviews, but I'm here now. And so I went ahead and got this little graphic put together for myself. We'll see what happens with season two, man. I am eagerly anticipating a very quick announcement for a season two of X-Men 97 after this. Hopefully, we get ourselves an announcement sometime, maybe by the end of this week. When I drop this, that would be great if we get it on Friday, maybe sometime the beginning of next week. We know that they already have season two written and in the bag. It wouldn't surprise me if the animation is kind of already done. So who knows? Maybe we get ourselves a season two announcement and a release date, but I hope that they knock it out, man. I hope that they drop it sooner rather than later. Again, I don't know how far along the animation or for it or anything like that is, but I know we definitely have a season two in store. Season three, I believe, has been greenlit. I don't believe that's been written as of yet. So we'll see how it goes, man. But this is certainly quite deserving of a second season for sure, man. But guys, I can't believe we made it here. I truly can't. 10 episodes. I don't want to say it feels like this season went by so fast. I thought 10 episodes is actually a really solid number for them to do. I also gotta appreciate them for giving us more than 30-minute episodes. I don't know if how many episodes might have come in under 30, if any at all. I feel like I recall them being like 33, 34 minutes, especially the season finale here came in at like 42, 43. So I love that idea that they're like, you know what, let's give our fans some more to go ahead and wrap up sort of this final season. I hate being sort of ripped off, if you will, but I think the length of these episodes have been working extremely perfectly for it being an animated series. Again, if I had any issues with it, is probably maybe the first few episodes where I did feel like they were putting a lot of information in. I almost felt like we were going through a lot of stuff rather rapidly within like the first two or three episodes. But then it really kind of hit a perfect sort of level of pacing where everybody got their opportunity to really shine. You got to dig into some of the characters relatively well, also really build on their emotional arcs, story arcs, and whatever the case may be to a fantastic finale that I think they honestly landed, guys. So I really enjoyed this season. If I had to give it a grade, it probably would be like a low A+. I mean, I'm talking like 96%. I think that if there's one episode I truly just like didn't care for was probably the Jubilee Mondo, or is it Mojo episode. But I think even half of that was related to Storm and Forge, which I certainly didn't mind. And outside of the pacing in the first couple episodes, I really enjoyed this season, man. Like it did everything I could have asked for and more. Like, you have like your expectations of what something's gonna be, and you never want to think that it's always hard to meet those expectations, but man, this exceeded my expectations. So I don't really hand out A+s very often, but X-Men 97, quite deserving, honestly. It's just as a season as a whole. But let's talk about this finale, man, because we had a lot of things going on all fronts. Not a lot of things, but really wrapping up a lot of things on all fronts here. First and foremost, starting off this episode with Xavier and Professor X in their mind. At first, I thought they were having maybe like a flashback of a moment that they shared years ago, but you come to find out it's really in Magnus's head, as Professor X is trying to get him to reverse course in regards to everything that transpired in last week's episode, to the point to where Magnus is pretty headstrong in regards to he wants to continue to go through with what he's doing, and Professor X decides, I got to take control, buddy. And it is horrific to kind of see just Professor X really violate his friend in the sense of pushing through his mental barriers and kind of taking control. I mean, it looked rather violent, to say the least, but it does a trick, and in doing so, not only does it save Earth, but it does also go ahead and activate sort of Bastion's sentinels that he certainly had in regards to his sleeper sentinels and whatever the case may be. So definitely cause for more problems on Earth after certainly solving one problem. And I thought that was rather fascinating that it turned out that way. But I really enjoyed the Charles Xavier and Magnus stuff that we got in here, the idea of Charles trying to help him navigate his memories, have him learn who he is again, but yet at the same time, while I'm really thankful that Charles helped Magnus get to a point of realizing who he is, but this time from a different perspective. There is something, I don't want to say evil, but very manipulative of Professor X here, in the sense of molding Magneto into almost the person that Professor X wanted him to be, not who Magnus truly is. And maybe maybe you could say he talks some sense into him, and so this is the Magnus that we now have. But the idea that he's kind of walking him down this line, this path that he wants Magnus to take, trying to butter him up with saying all the great things that Professor X thinks that Magnus certainly wants to hear, and allowing him to get his memories back, or remember who he truly is, just without the years of the mental anguish and all the stuff that he's seen in his life to make Magnus who he certainly is. So there's definitely a heavy manipulation factor, I think, from Professor X in here, of getting his best friend back, but clearly with a completely different mindset, to where he himself winds up helping make sure that asteroid M doesn't strike Earth, and really help become the savior and bring it back into space. Now, they do end up sort of vanishing and being thrusted into time, going all the way back to was it 3000 BC? And clearly Xavier and Magnus are working side by side here. There's no more sort of animosity. And if you ask me, there's a part of me that's waiting for that maybe mental dam to break for Magnus come season 2, in the sense of realizing what Charles did in regards to manipulating his mind and bending his mind to being this particular person. I wonder if all the memories in the past will eventually flood back into Magnus, and he realizes and remembers everything that happened on asteroid M and his attack on Earth after what the humans have kind of put him through. I mean, who knows? Maybe Homeboy gets back to Earth eventually in present day, and the hatred and the animosity from the humans towards him, maybe that's something that triggers him to remembering things again. I'm not quite sure, but I did find it fascinating, the journey that these two men were certainly on. Clearly Professor X cares about Magnus. I'm not saying that he doesn't. He clearly looks at him as a brother and cares for him, and just wants Magnus to see the world the same way that he does. But then again, that's forcing yourself and your opinion onto somebody, and to me, really molding Magnus into what Charles Xavier envisions what he would like his best friend to be. So yeah, I think great intentions, but maybe not necessarily the outcome that I think Magnus would certainly have wanted if they truly are friends. You know what I mean? So I just found it really fascinating. I thought it was some really great stuff. Also, shout out to, and I've been meaning to say this the past couple episodes, but shout out to whoever voices Bastion. I thought I saw something on Twitter very briefly. I didn't get a chance to check it myself, but I believe it's the actor Theo James that's doing the voice of Bastion. If I am incorrect, let me know in the comment section box below who's voicing Bastion. But there is just, it's a very recognizable voice, but there is just something really great about Bastion's voice that makes me certainly want to, it's very pleasing to the ear, and I always listen to everything that this man has to say. So I thought they did a really great job in regards to voice casting Bastion in here, who becomes like Bastion 2.0 as we see him take over sort of the techno virus, literally ripping Cable's arm out of his socket and absorbing the techno virus, and almost becoming like this archangel of death made out of techno virus. I mean, it was unbelievable and a really cool character design for them to come up with for Bastion in here, to the point where I thought that this dude was going to be nearly indestructible and impossible to kill. And I gotta say, the action in here just completely blew me away, especially just the teamwork too. First off, it was really cool to kind of see Rogue go toe to toe with Bastion on the moon. some of the great close-up shots that they had. You can see the tears in her eyes as she winds up swinging, sort of thing too, right? You know, they're very much under the impression that like this is their final stand. So I think they certainly knew the cost of possibly their lives in this particular battle, and it certainly showed. You know, Sunspot certainly came through, finally utilizing his powers. But when Bastion gets back to Asteroid M, I think that's some of the most impressive fight sequence as far as like a teamwork goes that I was a really big fan of, from the Jubilee stuff to Nightcrawler vanishing and popping up, sort of thing. Cyclops, I mean, we got ourselves like a Dragon Ball Z moment in here where we got two people throwing some type of blasts at each other, sort of thing, to a complete standstill, to the point of, you know, Scott just, I can't remember if he took off his visor or he just unleashed on this man. But I thought it was just absolutely incredible, to be quite frank with you. But just some overall really great moments, man, when it comes to the action. And, you know, props to just the writing team and Bo DeMayo in here. You know, one of my favorite moments in this episode is when Bastion is truly like at his limit, about to get crushed on by Beast's Sentinel. And when this man is easy pickings for the X-Men to just pick off and take care of, you know, the fact that they decide to take the higher road after everything, right? After everything that they've been through. But I think if we've been watching X-Men and we know X-Men all along, like that shouldn't surprise us, right? Like this is a group of people that have struggled with literally humanity despising them. And the fact that humanity has tried to kill them countless times. They've been here before. And they choose a different path. And I think that just speaks wonders to who these characters are, how well the writers absolutely know this team. And for Cyclops and Storm to extend an olive branch, you know, and make it super relatable and trying to speak to his humanity, very much like Storm did early in this episode, that really made Bastion think for a brief moment. And I love the fact that Bastion's like, the audacity that like after everything that I put you guys through, you're trying to recruit me. But I love just the life lesson that Scott learns in this season and relates it very much to Bastion in a sense of like, parents make mistakes, man, right? Like we're not perfect, you know. We always think that we have the best intentions for our kids and wanting to make, you know, them happy, and it doesn't necessarily always go the way that we certainly want to, you know, in regards to trying to have Bastion understand maybe some of the choices that his own sort of mother made. You know, I don't know. I just thought the olive branch was a really cool decision after all the ass whooping that sort of took place, you know, when you've got your man on his knees, not, I don't want to say not able or capable of going anymore, but you got the sense that it was over for Bastion. To extend that olive branch in that hand, I thought was really, really brilliant, and really spoke to certainly who the X-Men was in here. So I really love this episode, man. I thought this episode stuck the landing that you certainly needed to when it comes to a season finale. I did find it fascinating, the idea of the return of the Phoenix, very briefly, that clearly there was some leftover Phoenix in her, and when she was at the point of death, you know, it resurrects her once again, right? Like Rogue said in the previous episode, who's the next X-Men to die? Jean, been there, done that, right? Like, I mean, fuck, this girl can't die. Like the Phoenix is always there to bring her back to life, sort of thing. And we got to see that first glimpse. But I think another, and they have so many great moments in here. The moment of Cable towards the end when Cyclops and Jean go to say their goodbyes, you know, like doing something that he didn't have the opportunity to do before he had to send his son to the future. The bond now that's between Jean Grey and Cable in here. I just thought it was a very sweet and sentimental moment that I'm glad Jean and Scott got to share, because this doesn't feel anymore like, I don't want to say Scott doesn't miss Madeline, but I think he's adjusting, you know? And I think the fact that him and Jean got the opportunity to share that moment together with Cable, I think just goes to show you how much their family really has formed. And really again how much Jean, I don't want to say sacrifices, but gets out of her own way and just embraces the idea like, I know he's not my son, but I have the memories and it feels like my son. I'm gonna treat him like my son, and just embraces that role. And so I thought that was really touching. I thought it was a really touching moment, honestly. But as far as the ending goes in here, I have no idea how they wind up jumping into time. I do think that it's cool that we get to see En Sabanor, good old Apocalypse himself, in the past. Clearly his mutation is working. I mean, the homeboy has created himself a dome in 3000 BC. Yet we've got the Summers family thrusted into the future, getting an opportunity to meet Nathan at a you know, what is it, teenage, maybe less than that age, maybe like 8, 9, 10 maybe. So it's cool that we got ourselves a little bit of a reuniting here. But I think for me, and I almost missed this because I was almost turned the episode off, but the little brief post-credit scene or mid-credit scene that we get of Apocalypse over in Genosha, and he winds up picking up Gambit's card. Like, that just screams to me a moment from the X-Men comic books where he literally makes Gambit, I believe, one of his 4 horsemen in death. In death, if I'm not mistaken. That would just be bananas. Like, I just can't even imagine what Rogue's reaction would be when she does come back to present day, to see a resurrected Gambit in that sense. And I mean, you know, when you think of Apocalypse, you do think of the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse. And considering the fact that he's possibly going to be recruiting Gambit, I mean, he's just in a place of death right now, you know? He's just in a place of, you know, being in Genosha and the rubble and the remnants of that place. It probably just, the stench alone is probably horrible from just the dead bodies and just how much death resides there. So I'd be really fascinated to kind of see who else he winds up sort of resurrecting or bringing sort of into the fold, because Gambit is clearly going to be one, but when you need 3 other people, I am kind of curious as to who his team, if you will, is certainly going to be. And it looks like it's very much opening an opportunity. Plus, we even got Bishop back. We haven't seen Bishop since he wound up sending Nathan into the future. It seems like he's going to be tag teaming here with Forge to go ahead and put together some sort of new X-Men team to maybe defend Earth or whatever the case may be, continue on the mission, maybe help find out where the team went. Again, I don't know how they wind up slipping into time. That is not quite how I expected this episode to end, to be quite frank with you. But I love the idea of it to be continued, really opening the door for a second season and a really fresh new take. You know, if anything, I mean, look, they all know who Apocalypse is, right? Like, the fact that one of the last lines is Beast saying, "Oh dear," like, even he knows the situation that they find him in. But I think it would be really interesting to kind of see what impact our present day X-Men have on En Sabanor back in 3000 BC. Does that change his perspective of things? Does he acquire knowledge maybe he shouldn't have at such a young lifetime for himself? Will how they interact with him in the past change or affect the Apocalypse that we see in the mid-credit scene, right? Like, the ramifications for that are just bananas to me. But who knows? Maybe the past and the future are very much sort of Apocalypse related. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see when it comes to season 2. But man, great episode, man. Great episode. Fantastic wrapping up of character stories. Also all the cameos too. All the cameos of just the Marvel superheroes trying to protect Earth after all the shit's just hit the fan. I mean, we had Daredevil. I mean, we're going deep with some of these cuts, like Cloak and Dagger. We had Captain America in here with the classic Iron Man, also, like from the 1990s cartoon. Like, what? Homeboy is rocking the same suit from the cartoon series from back in the day. I mean, the list just goes on and on. We had Alpha Flight in here. Psylocke was in here. I mean, man, I was hella impressed. Omega Red. I mean, man, the list goes on and on. I just thought it was really cool to kind of see how the X-Men's actions were affecting other people. And to see that people were actually cheering for the idea of the X-Men sort of saving them. Interesting how how things change, right? When they're saving your ass, saving your life. Now you want to become fans of theirs. But great episode, man. Again, I'll say this. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't know the reasons why Marvel and Beau DeMayo certainly parted ways. But if it's not that serious, like if it's something that you don't think the public is gonna go ape shit crazy about, bring this man back. I don't care how hard this guy might have been to work with from some of the rumors that I had heard. This man's making top tier quality. You know what I'm saying? Unless they have bigger and better things in store for him in regards to like, hey, we want you to write the movie. Maybe something along those lines. Because I'm going to tell you right now, X-Men 97, you've set a high bar for anything X-Men related at this point in time. But I think they nailed every character. I really have no gripes in regards to how the characters were represented. My boy Scott Summers got the opportunity to reclaim his title as leader and feeling like he is a leader. How I always expected Scott to certainly be. They just brought everybody to life, man. And I cannot wait to see what season 2 has in store. But look, guys, if there's anything that I missed, any moments in here that you really want to talk about that I didn't highlight that you want to talk more about, let's talk about those in the comments, man. It definitely helps the algorithm for sure, but I love hearing your opinions because at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I always want to know yours. So let's continue this conversation in the comments below. But until next season, it's not myself, it'll be Indy certainly returning, but whoever we get, just remember, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. To me, my X-Men. Talk to you later. Bye.